Hello and welcome to episode number 90 of the Hobbies and Happiness podcast, where we talk about the hobby that makes us happy, tabletop gaming. I'm one of your hosts, Dan.
I'm Jim, and after 10,000 years, we finally know how to play the game.
You know what's funny is Jim just recently learned that the genie was in the bottle for 10,000 years.
I'm a genie in a bottle, baby. Oh, wrong thing.
Wrong thing, yeah.
Okay.
But you didn't know that before Friday.
No, I had no idea. I had no clue.
So what actually happened is this past weekend, we did our kind of weekly stream, and this Friday we had another Disney Lorcana content creator roundtable, and I had a fun game of Disney trivia put together for all the participants, and I knew Jim was not going to like it. He was not going to do very well. But you know what? You didn't get last.
I didn't get last.
And so that was one of the questions that was on the in the trivia was how long was the genie basically in the bottle.
Yeah. I did get half points though.
I gave him half points because I felt bad because you guessed 5,000 years and you're like, can I get half? Like, why not? So,
doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, before we get into it, let's talk about our sponsor. Head over to our affiliate link, www.audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness. You can find a link to Audible Trial. So, Amazon Audible is Amazon's Audible service. If you follow that link, you can sign up for a free 30-day trial of Amazon's Audible service. What is Audible, you ask? It is Amazon's audiobook service. Well, if you sign up, you get a free credit added to your account that you can use for any book on their service. What's even better is if you are an Amazon Prime member, you actually get 2 free credits. That's right. 2 free credits added to your account, where if you follow, you can sign up for that free trial, get those credits added to your account. And if you don't like the service, you can cancel before the end of those 30 days. You get to keep those credits on your account. And so you basically get a free book or two for signing up. So again, follow that link at www.audibletrial.com/hobbies and happiness. Sign up for your free 30-day trial today. All right, so today is kind of a return to form. And this is one of the reasons I enjoy having a podcast, because we can just use it to talk about whatever we want. We've been having a lot of fun with interviews. We've got more scheduled, more coming up. But, man, this past week was just crazy. So
Is this the first podcast we've done just us in how long?
A long time.
3 months? Maybe?
It's been a while.
I don't know.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
Since we talked to, I think, Jake Boss and Ridge from Alpha Clash, I think that was around the last time that we did because I think in between there we talked about the D&D OGL.
Yeah.
And I think that was the last podcast that was just us.
Wow.
Ever since then, it's been interviews, and we're going to get back to doing interviews. But this news is just, we wanted to sit down, have a long form conversation about it. We do have other content planned. We do have other videos mapped out that are good. We're going to start recording this week. We're recording this on Sunday. So today is Sunday. We're recording this on Sunday. This will be out on Wednesday, so it'll be live on Wednesday. Yep. There's a lot that can happen in between then, but we wanted to get kind of our thoughts in a long form video or a long form podcast. So that's kind of, I'm looking forward to this because again, like,
it's been a while.
It's been a while, dude.
And I was gonna say, like, it's been really nice talking with other people, but like just sitting here and being able to talk to Dan about whatever it is that we're going to be talking about, it kind of just gets me a little nervous / excited.
Really?
I'm excited about it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You're excited about like this, just the format,
just
the style?
Hanging out, talking about this.
Yeah, just talking about it.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Like, Jim, so now that we know how to play this game, I think this is gonna be a really popular game.
Yeah.
Like, I think this is gonna do really well.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. Okay. So we're gonna take the first third to first half of the podcast. We're gonna kind of go over all of the rules. We're gonna go over the quick start rules. So last week was a news and info dump from Disney Lorcana. So actually what happened, if you look last week, if you head to our channel, go to last week, we streamed, the rules were released on Monday. So we did a stream Monday night.
Yep.
and kind of just put our initial thoughts out there. So we had fun with that. Go check that out. You can go to our channel. I'll try to link it here if possible. I'll make sure to link it in the description. And then I don't remember what day it was, whether it was Wednesday, Thursday, but throughout the entire week, we just had a ton more cards that were dropped. And we haven't really talked about them yet on our channel. So we will do that this week. We're going to start doing spoiler videos for the cards. And one of the things that we talked about just before this was, how do you analyze the cards and how do you talk about the cards? So we'll talk about that here in a little bit, because
we have the best way to say
we
it.
do. We have the best way to say it. We think the best way to say it. But it's weird because now there's another stat line. There's another stat line that you have to add in there, right? So first we're going to talk about the quick start rules. Then we're going to talk about our thoughts on that. And so we talked about our stream on Monday. We also had a stream Friday, which again, I'll make sure that gets linked. We streamed, guys. If you weren't there, you missed out. It was so much fun. We streamed for 5 hours. It was like 4 hours and 50 minutes. I was up till like 1:30 in the morning. A ton of people stopped by. A bunch of people who it was their first time joining us on stream, and it was a ton of fun. So you can go check out that VOD. Again, go to our channel. You can watch that 5-hour stream if you want. It was a lot of fun. I had fun putting that trivia together. That was fun. I spent the night before putting it together, and it was fun. I don't care.
I was terrible, but I still enjoyed it.
It was fun. So, all right. So with that out of the way, let's start. Actually, before we talk about the quick rules, the quick start rules, let's let's talk about where the metagame stands. All right. So I've been giving been giving a lot of garbage to people, all in good fun, And honestly, everyone who's been doing it, they have fun with this too.
Yeah.
Okay. There is no metagame. Okay. So anyone who's been playtesting, okay, and has said they have,
it's all for nothing.
They have 80 to 100 games under their belt, and I know the best. Guys, I'm not saying anyone does this, but we're having fun right now, okay? So this is us having fun. We played 80 games of Disney Lorcana, and guys, oh my goodness, this is just so awesome and so cool. And you know what? Blue's broken, Steel's broken, and this one card. All right. I hate to break it to you guys. Okay. Guess what? When you have more cards that come out in the next week, all that's going to go in the garbage.
There's no meta until everything's out. It's that simple.
And in people's hands.
And not to mention, the meta that is going to be out for like maybe a month is not going to be the meta after that next month.
Right. And again, for those of you playtesting, I know you've basically even said as much. I understand this. It's just funny. It's fun. And there's plenty of podcasts and channels out there who are dedicated to, the competitive side of Disney Lorcana. To me, I'm just like, how can you, there's nothing yet. It's hard. I mean, I get the position they're in.
They're getting their foot in the door.
Well, right. I understand the position they're in too, right? You got to start somewhere.
Yep.
And so when they start, they started at a good time, right? Before laying the groundwork, getting things in. It's just figuring out when to, because you have to understand everything first. And that's where I'm at too. I want to start playtesting, but the only reason I want to playtest is to get a feel for how the game feels and works and get that under my belt. So I just had to poke and have fun a little bit just because it's fun. So, all right, let's talk about how to play. All right. So I can't remember. I think it was the Monday. They released the quick start rules. So if you head over to Lorcana's website, lorcana.com, if you click on play, all the way at the bottom is the quick start rules. And this is kind of what we went over on our stream on Monday. But this seems like a very, very simple game to play. Seems like a very simple game to get into.
It's like they said it was going to be.
Yeah, right? One of my favorite things about this is they talk about how a turn works.
Yeah.
And it's fun. So again, if you come from any other card game, if you look at Magic, untap, upkeep, draw, main phase 1, combat, main phase 2, end step, and then there's everything in between. It's kind of crazy. And then I'm sure you go to any other card game, it's very, very similar. You have step 1, step 3, step 400, and then, step 201A, B, C.
Oh, that's just the rulings. Come on now. Come on.
But it can be daunting.
Yeah.
It can be daunting. So they have on here a turn order at a glance. There's basically two parts of a turn, the beginning phase and your main phase. Your beginning phase starts ready, set, draw. Pretty simple. Now here, but I look at that and then say, oh, untap, upkeep, draw. It's the same thing, right? So that's one thing that Magic got very right. They got very right because every game, basically, every card game has their version of untap, upkeep, draw.
Yep.
And that is the beginning phase in Lorcana. Yep. Okay. And after that, it's just main phase. It is a main phase. You can do all of your turn happens in your main phase. So
I really like that part. The main phase of
correct.
Just do everything.
Do everything.
There's no main phase 1, go to combat, main phase 2.
Which is what we speculated.
Yeah.
We thought it would be similar to this. And I think it works. And honestly, it's simple, but also strategic.
Oh, yeah.
Because what that means is you have to sequence your plays accordingly.
Yep.
Now, with Magic, you have a little bit more leeway because you have main phase 1, combat, main phase 2.
Yeah.
Right? You can do stuff kind of out of order, right? But if you want to attack, they need to be on board before your combat phase, essentially. But with main phase, with just this one main phase, you can do things like if I have 4 creatures on board, right? You can challenge. I still have these 2 up, and now I play a card, play a creature, get them on board. Like there's a lot of different lines that are going to be available to you. So in the quick start rules, they say in the main phase, you choose as many as you like, except as noted in any order. Once a turn, you can add a card to your inkwell, which we'll talk about a little bit, the resources. You can play a card. You can activate an item. You can play a character ability that doesn't require an exert, also known as a tap ability, with a character that was in play during the set step. This part's important. So basically means these characters have summoning sickness.
Yes.
You can quest, you can challenge an exerted character.
They're letting the ink dry, Dan. That's what they're doing.
They leaned into that a while ago. They leaned into that a while, and I like it because again, it works. I think I've said this before. I said this once on our stream on Friday. I think there's actually a lot of gimmicks in this game that work. And that's one of the things, like, we did look up the definition of the word gimmick, and it's basically like something that's done essentially only for publicity, right? So is it a gimmick?
I don't think
by the definition, not really, but I think it kind of is. But again, I'm not saying it in a negative way either, because I think it's good. I think it very clearly works, right?
It's in there thematically.
Yes, yeah. I do think that's a better way of saying it because it is summoning sickness. Like for all intents and purposes, it's summoning sickness. Mechanically, it's the exact same thing.
Yes,
but they have figured out better. They have figured out more thematic ways to say these mechanics, and letting the ink dry is that way of. Or their way of saying the same thing mechanically, right? So the other thing is you can use an ability that requires you to exert the character or also tap. So that's how turns work. It's very, 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 very simple. So you have any thoughts on that real quick before we move on?
Nothing
do you
else
like
to
it?
add.
Do you like it?
I really do like it.
Yeah.
Especially because I compared this game a lot to Pokemon, and after you battle or once you attack in Pokemon, your turn's just over. And,
right.
And Magic,
I never
and
like
Yu-Gi-Oh,
that. I do not like that.
There's so many times where I'm like, oh, I want to do this, attack, and then go into another main phase and then continue or pass the turn.
Right.
And then with Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh, it is both main phase 1, combat, main phase 2. So that is also nice. But since there are instant speed things you're able to do in those other games, you can still activate things in combat step,
right?
To where it makes up to where you can't by just being able to play cards at any time pretty much on your turn and then go into combat.
Right.
So it gets around the instant speed stuff on your turn, So I think they did a really good job with this.
All right, let's talk about the resources. So the way resources work, and this is another thing we speculated. Okay, quote, every card's a resource. Not every card's a resource.
Not every card's
a resource. But the reason I say that is,
every
again,
card is a resource, but it's not.
Yeah, right, right. If you look at other card games, it uses a very similar mechanic, right? Where there are no energy cards, there are no lands, there are no cards that are specifically, these are your resource cards, okay? It's, if there's something on a card, it can be used as a resource. So each card has a cost, right? Top left corner, which we all knew that's what the cost was, okay? But if there's the community was calling it a flourish before, that is now known from Lorcana as that is an inkwell icon. I don't think people are going to say inkwell icon. This is another thing we were messing with people on stream about. People aren't going to say inkwell icon.
Nope.
I do think there's going to be a lot of people who say flourish.
Probably.
I think there's going to be a lot of people who say flourish. But if it has that flourish inkwell icon, that means the card can be used as a resource. Okay. So during your turn, you can put any card that has that icon on it into your inkwell face down. So if you have a card, you show it to your opponent. You do have to show it to your opponent because, again, to show your opponent this card has the inkwell icon, I'm putting it down as a resource. I mean, I'll just talk about it now. It's not an elegant solution. I don't like the aesthetics of it. That is not a big deal at all, right? It's just, if I have colored sleeves, they're just all going to mesh together, right? So it's not an aesthetically pleasing solution. There are easy and simple ways around that. But I just personally don't like that. But I also think that's why they designed the card back that way too. Yeah. But then I also got to think about, I mean, they had to have thought about sleeves through the design process, right? Because you can't use clear sleeves.
Nope.
I mean, you can if you want, but if you're in a competitive tournament, you cannot use clear sleeves. And the reason for that is you can have marked cards. You can mark your cards.
And it might not even be to your intentionally marking them. It's just, if you're pulling things out of sleeves, it can get nicked. And then if you're opening the pack through transporting any means, they can just get nicked. And you can notice that over time. It's just like, oh, I know this card's a little messed up. I know that it has this one little tick in it, and I know which card I'm getting right now.
Yeah. So what's your thought on the resource system? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you think it's going to work? Do you think there's going to be issues? What's your thoughts so far?
I think it throws more complexity into a card balancing design.
Yeah.
Because now it's not just we're looking at the total cost versus efficiency of effects or stat lines. Now it's, I'm paying attention to stat line, effect, and can I put it in my mana pool? Because then now you're getting even more use out of it to where it's, oh, I can't cast this card anytime soon. Throw it in the back row. It's mana. I'll eventually find another copy in my deck.
Yeah, it's funny because I was playing another card game this weekend. I won't say which card game it was, but it is a game where any card is a resource. Okay.
Yeah.
And I had multiple cards in my hand, and I'm like, I don't want to give up any of these cards because they're all valuable, but also I need resources. I'm like, I need resources right now. So the fact that there are going to be, there's going to be cards that can be used as resources, some that can't be used as resources, I do like that.
Yeah. I've said this before. It's partially the reason I don't play Dragon Ball Super is that you can use any card for the back row, and it just hurts my brain so much.
I know
to think about and what cards I need to get rid of / I don't want to get rid of.
Yeah,
it hurts me a lot to play the game.
All right, so since we're talking about the resource system, there were, as you can imagine, there were a bunch of articles that dropped last week from various outlets, and there's this one article I want to reference a few times. It's from Polygon. They interviewed Ryan Miller, one of the co-designers of Lorcana, and they were talking about ink, okay, and then the resources. So I'm trying to find it here. Okay, here it is. They originally started with every card could be used as a resource, so every card had that ink. So there's this paragraph here. It says, at first, virtually every card in Disney Lorcana could be used to generate the resource ink at a rate of 1 per turn. That solved the problem of not having enough resources in the early rounds fairly easily. Then they started removing that ink ability from some of the more powerful cards, lowering their utility in one respect while enhancing it in another. Today, many of the cards in the game cannot be turned into ink, but it's up to players to decide whether or not to include them in their custom-made decks.
Yep.
And Ryan Miller says, he's quoted as saying, it allows a really interesting balancing tweak that we can do, Miller said, because by taking the ink off of a card and saying this card doesn't provide you ink, it really changes your valuation when you're building your deck. It's really got to justify itself now because I can't use it as ink. So he's speaking specifically from an opportunity cost standpoint. He says, I believe that the experienced trading card gamers are really going to find that very interesting. And I think he's right.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
100%.
Because what I just said, one thing when you're building decks, you have to think about is the opportunity cost. Because when you are adding a card into your deck, what that means is you cannot have any other card in your deck because that's taking up a slot in your deck. Okay. And that is the exact concept of opportunity cost. Okay. So, I mean, you have anything else you want to say about opportunity cost? Because, I mean, like, opportunity cost is a very interesting concept. And I think as a deck builder and theory crafter, you really have to think about the concept of opportunity cost.
Yeah, I think there's going to be some decks out there that every single card is inkable.
Oh, yeah.
Every single card. So they don't even have to worry about it. They're just going to be like, all right, I'm going to want to have the most consistency as possible. And yeah, there will be some out there.
So, okay, the next thing I want to talk about, resource system, I like it. I think it's elegant. I do think it's elegant. Like, I really kind of do. Like, it's elegant. And it's not the I'm just gonna say lazy route of every card's a resource. It's not that, and that's not lazy per se. It can be right because anything can be lazy, right? Because what does that mean? Like if you're designing a game, well, let's just make it so this game does it. So let's just do the same thing. Like that's being lazy, right? I think this is very elegant, and again. I'm just gonna I think the word gimmick is a bad word to use because I think every time I want to use the word gimmick, I think the word thematic is much more appropriate. So I think this is a very thematic way that they have figured out this issue, right? Of the resource issue. So I really, really, really do.
And I love the evolution that they had of, nearly every single card, or pretty much every single card was inkable before, and then they just slowly evolved into, all right, well, this card's a little too good. Let's make it to where you can't put it in the back row. So, and then, they just took their idea and were like, maybe we do it this other way.
Because again, and one thing, and we're going to talk about this, but I have been thinking so hard about the design space because I am not thinking about this game in the here and now. I'm thinking about this game 5 years, 10 years down the line and where it can be, where it can go.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? You have to evolve from a design space, from a design standpoint. You have to grow, right? And I think so far, like this space is, I just think the more and more I talk about this, the more and more I'm like, I think it is really solid. I think it's very solid, and they can greatly expand upon this down the line. And so just the aspect of saying whether or not this card can be used as a resource or not really adds an interesting opportunity cost valuation into the standpoint of the card. Right, because you really have to think about that when you're designing your deck, and that. So I think it's very, very, very interesting for sure. All right, let's talk about the cards. Okay,
Yay.
so there's 3 different card types. Now they say Lorcana specifically says there's 3 different card types at launch. There was an article, I believe it was in a Polygon article. So those card types are characters, items, and actions. Okay. The reason I'm intrigued with that specific statement is we speculated that there will be locations in the game. I'm
Not wrong yet.
Yeah, that's where we said we're not wrong yet, right? We said that in our initial reaction stream, like we're not wrong yet. I think we're going to see locations pretty soon.
Yeah.
I really
have
think
to.
you have to.
They're going to make the Disney castle.
I want
I
to see the elephant graveyard too, like the elephant graveyard.
Yeah.
But the Disney castle. You're thinking of the one at Disney World, right?
Yeah.
Whose castle is that?
I don't know.
You don't know. It's Cinderella's
Waltz.
castle. It's
Waltz.
Cinderella's castle. It's Cinderella's castle. The one in Disneyland, that is Sleeping Beauty's castle, I think. I think that's Sleeping Beauty's castle. I can't remember.
Okay.
But yeah, I think each castle, oh man, I don't know if each castle is a princess.
You know what's funny
castle.
when you
I just know
asked,
that the one is Cinderella's castle.
my first initial thought, I'm like, I don't know, Mickey's?
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so card types, we've seen pretty much all of these so far. Okay, so you have characters. Characters, you'll send character glimmers on quests and in challenges. Some have special abilities. So it's important to note, for those of you who are interested in the lore aspect of the game, go to the website and then you can learn more about the lore. But everything in this game that it looks like is a glimmer. I don't know exactly what a glimmer is, but it's like it's a version of this character that's appearing within the world of Lorcana.
It's like a little illusion of a character.
Kind of, yeah. So characters, you're going to send character glimmers on quests and into challenges, and then some of these characters have special abilities. If they don't have a special ability, it's a bad card. I'm just kidding.
For real though.
We've seen a lot of vanilla cards so far. And vanilla basically means it doesn't have an ability.
The only ones that are good are one drops that you utilize for shifting effects.
Yeah. And then we have items. So we have item glimmers stay in play when you play them and give you special abilities during the game. Yeah. So items, this is another thing I like about the design of the card. So the items have an interesting frame around the card to differentiate it. And then they stay on board, and you can actually exert the item the turn it comes into play. You can't do it with characters. Actions are basically spells, give you a one-time advantage, and are then discarded. Now there's one type of card that we've seen for the first time last week, and these are songs. Songs are action cards. So songs are a type of action you can play, and you can play one just like any other action by paying its cost and resolving its effect. But that's not your only option. Some characters can sing the song for you so you don't have to pay the ink. So one of the interesting things about songs, okay, is any character glimmer that costs the same cost as the card or more, can it be exerted to pay that cost for free? Yep. So a good example is we have One Jump Ahead, which this is a really good card. So One Jump Ahead is a 2-cost action song that is not inkable. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a second here. It is what's blue? What's the blue one?
Sapphire.
Sapphire. Okay.
Dan, don't you know this stuff?
No, I don't.
Thought we were professionals.
Yeah, right. And so it says, put the top card of your deck into your inkwell face down and exert it. So One Jump Ahead costs 2. And it says a character with cost 2 or more can exert to sing this song for free. So there are other songs that we've seen. So One Jump Ahead costs 2. There's some that cost 3 and 5, I think. And then you have to exert a character that has the cost of the song or more. Yep. Okay. And so if you exert them, what do you think about that? What's your initial thought on something like that? Because this is what I said was a gimmick that works.
Yeah.
This is one that I do think is a gimmick. I do think it is.
It is on theme.
It is on theme. I still think it's a gimmick, but it works and is very good. So I don't have a negative thing to say about it. I do think it's a gimmick, but it works. What do you think?
I think when I first saw them, I thought it was pretty broken.
Yeah, you keep talking. I'm going to go get some water.
Honestly, anytime you can cast anything for free and get a pretty good effect, it tends to be broken. Especially since I believe you can play the creature. So for one jump ahead, you can play a 2-drop and then instantly tap it for.
Incorrect.
Uh,
No, that's so far,
because I would assume that the tapping is coming from this effect and not from the creature
you
itself.
can't. No, they cannot be exerted. They can't be exerted. So if you I
thought it can't be exerted for their own ability.
no, they can't be exerted. Period.
Period.
They cannot be exerted. Period. So and that's what we know so far.
Use a character ability that doesn't require exert.
It requires an exert. Yeah.
Challenge. Use an ability that requires them to exert.
Yeah, no, you're not looking at the right part. You're not looking at the right thing. But so last week in these streams, we were, there were folks from Team Lorcana who were jumping in, and they essentially said that they cannot be tapped for anything the turn they come into play.
Gotcha.
So this is one of those things that needs more clarification. There are other things that need more clarification. This is one of them. But so far, I don't believe they can at all.
Okay. All right. So then at that point, it is less broken.
Correct.
But still extremely good. So now you have multi-use or multiple options of challenge with the card. You can quest with it or use the card to activate the songs.
Right.
So
that's one thing that I touched a little bit on.
It's like universal abilities for creatures, which I like.
Right. Yeah, the whole multi-use thing, I'm a fan of. So okay, but outside of that, you do like this, right?
Yeah,
you're a fan of it.
Yeah, still good.
Yeah. It again very much on theme. One of the things that I talked about is songs are finite. They have a finite number of songs in the Disney catalog
and characters.
They do, but they've already shown that is essentially bottomless.
Yeah,
because and we've even talked about that. Like you can have 10 different Mickeys just with different sub names, right? And it looks like in this set there's going to be a Mickey in every color pink. As what it looks like we've seen.
Yeah, they could do the same thing for a song. Just no jumps ahead, and like you lose the game. It's a removal card.
Well, one thing that I talked about was with the songs. There's so much design space you can do with the songs. Like, how about Fantasia? There's a bunch of classical songs in there. I don't know how licensing is going to work with stuff like that if you're able to do that. But let's even talk about the original Disney songs, right? So far, it looks like they just have the song titles as the songs of the card. There's the coconut card is from a song. The line is considered the coconut. They have on that card the licensing information for the song on that card. However, that is an item card.
Yeah.
Right. This is one thing I mentioned too. Is I was like, the lawyers are having a field day. Lawyers are having a field day with this game. So that's one thing. But in all honesty, I'm like, do you do lines? Do you do choruses? Do you do verses? How about songs that never made it into the movie? There were songs that were canceled, right? That were actually recorded, and they actually appear in soundtracks. You can have those.
I found it exactly for the songs on the this exerting part. Playing a card. It says at the bottom, rules for when you exert a character still apply, of course. It wasn't of course. Don't give me of course. So characters can't sing songs the same turn that they come into play.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So I told you.
It's just reading this, it's like, all right, well, this is a cost of this specific card of tap a creature as an alt cost.
You do have to get out of the magic brain. Too.
Yeah, I know.
You have to get out of the magic brain.
But that's why I saw
I know.
You could do it.
I know. Yeah. And again, that's not because that wasn't rules text, right?
It was under playing a card on the second page.
No. I meant on the card one.
Oh,
ahead. Yeah. Well, I think that would be what reminder text. That would technically be a reminder text of how an action can be paid for, essentially. Yeah. But again, overall, I love the concept of songs. I absolutely love it. Yeah. So in here they talk about parts of the card. Okay, so let's actually talk about the card itself. Okay. So for the most part, we knew everything about the card. We were pretty much correct. Yep. Top left, you got the cost, if it's inkable or not, with that ink icon, basically if it can be used as a resource or not. You do have the name of the character underneath. So it says characters also have a version name listed below the character's name. I don't know if anybody's going to say version name, like, I don't know. But again, functionally, it doesn't really matter. Right. Underneath it, it says the classifications of the card. That's another one where I'm like,
no, I don't think it is.
Yeah, that was one where I said it's a subtype.
Yeah.
Which I'm still going to go with subtype.
I also like traits.
Traits, yeah, you could do that. I just don't like the term classifications because, again, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
So then you have the ink color, then the effects, and then you have strength, willpower, and lore, which is power and defense, power toughness. Power toughness is strength, willpower, and then how much lore it has is the bottom right. Okay, so we figured out a way to say the card. Okay. Yes. So for example, we have Mickey in the quick start guide. You have Mickey Mouse, Wayward Sorcerer. So Mickey Mouse is the amethyst. This is a purple card. Okay. So the way we would say this is, so Mickey Mouse is a 3/4/2 for 4 and is inkable. That's how we'd say it.
It's the best way to say it, I think.
We took like 10 minutes figuring out how to pronounce it, but I think that's how we would say it.
So we go down the line of strength, willpower, lore value, and say its cost, and if you can put it into your mana,
your ink.
Well,
that's another one where
into your back row.
Yeah. Now, one thing we didn't really talk about. I'm amazed we got this far. How do you win the game?
True.
But this is another one we got right. It's the first player to 20 lore wins.
Yep.
The first player to 20 lore wins. And how do you gain that lore is you quest with your characters. So when it's your turn, what you can do, we did talk about it kind of at the turn order at a glance, is your characters, the things they can do is you can exert them to quest. And when they quest, they gain their lore value, and that lore just gets added to your lore pool, basically. So you can quest, you can challenge an opponent's exerted character. Which, did we talk about that specifically in our speculation video? Do you know? I think we kind of did. I can't remember. But yeah, so you can only challenge an opponent's exerted character. So if they're in the ready position, you cannot challenge them. They have to be in the exerted position. Okay. So when they challenge, it's going to work how pretty much you would think it would. With they both trade they deal damage consecutively.
Yep.
Okay. And then they get those damage counters added onto them. And then damage is persistent, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but from people who have play tested, they said it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
So,
Pokemon's been doing it for years.
Yeah. So it is what it is. It's first to gain 20 lore and then you win. So it's pretty simple and straightforward.
They also say that there is a scoop phase, and that's instant speed. So if at any point your opponent themselves wants to just scoop it up, that's another way to win.
They do talk about multiplayer in here specifically, which is interesting because we were talking about this a little bit. Is like this is one of the first games that really, it's not specifically designed for multiplayer, but they are sure to mention it because multiplayer is an extremely popular way of playing these card games. And if a card game does not have a multiplayer way to play, the community will tend to make one up, and that's strictly how some people play these card games.
And we were also correct with the rules for the multiplayer of 3 or more players of still going to 20 lore counters. I think I also put in maybe even 10.
Maybe 10, yeah.
But yeah, 20 just makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And is correct.
Yeah. So, they do talk about some new cards that have yet to be revealed in here, which I want to see. This Elsa Queen Regent, I really want to know what this Elsa does. Very much so.
Yes.
But So we've kind of touched on pretty much everything. Because again, this is pretty simple, straightforward. The one thing that is not mentioned in here at all is shift.
Yep.
We do not really know how the rules for shift yet. So that's one that we are kind of waiting for.
You know what I would love to see an Elsa character do? Of when an opponent's creature is tapped due to an effect on your turn, you can untap one of your creatures. Activated only once per turn. So you can't like tap down your entire opponent's board with that 3-drop Elsa.
Oh, yeah.
And then still just be able to keep her stood up because that gives her now protection from, I tap down Elsa, tap down your stuff. But now also during your opponent's turn, your Elsa's tapped and they can easily take her out.
And then if you want to take care of Elsa, you need to spend a card in hand like Dragonfire, or you need to spend an actual removal card.
Yep.
So yeah.
To take care of other stuff.
Correct. Yeah, that's interesting.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I like that. So that's kind of everything from the quick start guide. Before we move on, do you have anything else that you want to specifically mention or touch on before we really move on? Because that's kind of everything from here.
Yeah, we went over I think pretty much everything.
Yeah. So that's kind of everything from here. I would very much encourage everybody, just go take a look. Head over to the website, lorcana.com, go to the play section, all the way at the bottom. That's where you'll find the quick start rules.
7 cards starting hand as well.
7 cards starting hand. And you only draw 1 card per turn.
Yes.
We thought 2. And that reason, again, was really Final Fantasy because, again, that was any card can be any card could be used as a
resources.
But the reason Final Fantasy says draw 2 is you can also discard cards from hand for resources too. So that's interesting. Okay, there's one thing that I want to get your take on here. Okay. Before we move on to really our thoughts. In this Polygon article, Jim, you're familiar with the term variance?
Yes.
Okay. So Ryan Miller talks about variance a little bit here, and I'm interested on your take on this. So after we're talking about the ink system, let's see if I can find it specific. Where does this actually start? Okay. So Ryan Miller talks about variance when it comes to the ink design, right? Of, what cards are inkable or not, right? Yeah. Because again, this is a system that, again, I've said I think is elegant. I think it works very, very well. But there's 2 paragraphs in here that Ryan Miller says. Okay, another key advantage of the ink design that Miller enjoys is that it expands what he calls variance by going every card in that 60 card deck by giving every card in that 60 card deck multiple functions, being used as ink, being used to gather lore, or being used for some other unique action, further compounds the amount of variance in every deck. And it's that variance that should make Disney Lorcana so much fun to play and collect, and to experiment with, even if it means losing a hard-fought game. He's quoted with, "The reason I want to add variance is that variance gives hope," Miller said. "Without that added variance, players that start losing the race to 20 lore could have a higher chance to continue losing the race over time. Higher variance gives players more things to do, more cards to play, in the attempt to narrow that gap. It's not a blue shell for Mario Kart by any stretch, but it gives each game more drama. Without variance," Miller continued, "there can be no hope." What's your take on that?
Wow. Okay.
As you salivate on that for a minute.
Wow.
Okay. I read that and I'm like, but I don't want variance. As a deck builder, my entire goal is to limit the amount of variance that I see in my deck from game to game, right? I understand where his thought process and where he comes from, but again, as a deck builder, like that just runs counterintuitive to my thought process as a deck builder and what I'm trying to accomplish with the decks that I build, right? However, I can understand where he's coming from. So I want to get your take on that.
So I think for a creative process, I think it's a good idea. But like you said, if we're talking competitively,
Right.
you want to have as much consistency, as little variance as possible.
Right.
But they have also stated that they do not want this game to be as competitive as other games.
True.
Still think it's going to be a competitive game.
Yep.
And people will still find these just top tier decks.
Yep.
And but it does, the way they have it set up, it does provide people with, there's always that extra part of a card that can either come out or something that people just aren't paying attention to that allows you to, kind of play around what the meta is or could be.
Yeah, it gives you more outs.
Yeah.
Like, again, with Magic, you think about, if I draw a land here,
it's another layer to look at.
Right. So like I said, I get where he's coming from, and I think it makes perfect sense, right? But it's just, it does run counterintuitive to a deck builder's thought process of, oh, I want more variance. No, I don't. Like, I want as little variance as possible.
Well, a competitive deck builder's thoughts.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, right.
If we
correct, because
like,
again, like let's look at Commander.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And I was going to bring up multiplayer stuff. I'm you're going to love it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. But yeah, that's definitely a big caveat. We definitely should add in there a competitive deck builder's thoughts. Yeah. But that was just a paragraph that I thought was very interesting, to say the least. Because like if you look at Commander, one of the things I love about Commander is every game is different. Every single game is very, very much different. Even though I have my win condition in my deck, or multiple win conditions. So that's interesting.
And I do hope they get to a point where you have other ways to win the game. Like
an alt win con?
Yeah, like the second, what was it? The second sun, whatever, approach of the second sun.
Yeah. In my Amara deck, I have multiple alternate win conditions that I love, like Halo Fountain's one.
Yeah.
The Strixhaven Stadium is another one. And I'm like, I would love to get a couple wins just with those cards. Like, absolutely. I think it's really cool. Okay. So now I kind of want to just touch on some of our initial thoughts. These thoughts I kind of brought up already in our Friday stream. So again, if you want, go check out that 5-hour stream where we had a lot of fun. Our thoughts were kind of at the beginning of that video. Okay, so most of these I've already touched on, but the first one is, it seems pretty simple and easy pickup, which is good. Yep. The more accessible you make it, the easier it is for more people to get into it. I do think there's going to be, so if you just slap Disney on Magic the Gathering, it'll get people to take a look, but then when they sit down and then they look at it, they're like, yeah, this is not for me.
Oh, so what you're saying is if like they just slapped Lord of the Rings on Magic, or like Final Fantasy, or like even Warhammer people, that would like get them to take a look at it.
Well, yeah, like that, but that's why licensing is a thing.
Yeah,
like that's why there are licenses, right? But it does seem very simple to pick up and easy to learn, which is good. Like, especially for the Disney crowd, you want it to be an accessible game. The one thing we don't like, we understand the lack of instant speed interaction. Not surprised by. One of the things we talked about, it can lead to a lot of over complications, priority windows, a lot of different things. So I get it. I still would much rather play on my opponent's turn.
Yeah.
Right, Jim?
It's also going to cause me a lot less
thinking,
brain power.
Yeah.
And which is going to be nice.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Only having 3 different card types, again, simplistic, good thing. I'm just going to say, again, I love the songs. Yep. I love the songs. So you can do song verses, lines. There's a lot more that can be explored just in the songs.
Yeah. Honestly, I really don't think we have to worry about running out.
No, I don't think we do either. It's just, I wanted to make that a point, because if you do just say make one action song card per song, then you will run out eventually. You will run out eventually. That's where I'm like, again, because I'm thinking about the design space.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about what you can do, where you can go, instead of just doing, oh, we'll just do, I use that song already. Okay, that one's done. Like One Jump Ahead. Well, I can't you do anything else from One Jump Ahead? Like that I don't like, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's just there's so much that can be explored there. Like again, Fantasia, Make Mine Music, Fun and Fancy Free. There's Peter and the Wolf. Peter and the Wolf, like that was one of my favorites as a kid. But again, that's another classical song, appeared in a Disney film. Well, could they do that? I would love to see a Peter and the Wolf song card. What about like all the Phil Collins songs from Tarzan? Because again, one of the things that it's the licensing. Like I don't know who owns. I think Disney owns all the licensing rights to the Tarzan soundtrack, but I don't know.
I'd assume so.
I would assume so. But there's just a lot of songs. Like if you think about the songs from Zootopia, songs from Wreck-It Ralph, those are not original songs. Like those are traditional, well, not traditional, but they're pop songs from modern artists. Which if you wanted to use those, how expensive would that be? I don't know. It's just something that I was thinking about, right? I love the multi-use cards. Again, I love the ink design. We already talked about how many interesting choices that's going to lead to.
Yep.
It's going to be crazy. So what I really wanted to point out, I mentioned this already. We are on the ground floor. Like even when I'm talking about my cons, the things that I'm not happy with, I think about this is set one. Like what we have, the way you have to think about this and analyze it is this is the literal ground floor. Like all you can go is up. So again, from the design standpoint, I'm like, what else can be explored? Where else can we go design wise? And there's so many places you can go. I do think this foundation is very, very solid, an extremely solid foundation. So, yeah, those are some of my initial thoughts. Before I move on to any concerns, do you have anything else that you wanted to mention real quick before we moved on to concerns?
I don't think that there was anything else that I wanted to touch on. We kind of are hitting like everything, I think.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
I think that's good.
So the concerns. The biggest concern that I had. I already talked about the inkwell. Again, that's super minor. The biggest concern that I had, and I don't even know if this is a big concern because I think it was just the way they worded it. But if you go to Lorcana's website and you watch, they have a lot of how to play videos. And I think they did a really good job with those.
It's like 7.
Yeah. And they're short. They're like 2 or 3 minutes. Yeah. They're not very long. But the first video, it says like, welcome to Lorcana. It says, this game is for everyone. I cringed a little bit. Because again, from my standpoint, like I look at that and it's like, oh, universal design. Universal design is a myth. So universal design is a concept that was kind of coined by Dr. Ronald Mace. And his thought process, it was really from this, and it's from a good place because he was approaching design from an accessibility standpoint, like for disabled people, right? Designing specifically to make sure they have access to certain things. Okay. It's just when you design for everyone, you design for no one, right? Because in Dr. Ronald Mace's instance, okay, he was specifically designing his buildings for disabled people, right? And that's not a bad thing. Like, again, I'm not saying these things are bad at all. I'm just pointing out like the realities of the situation, right? So he is specifically designing something for disabled people, okay? Is he designing the structure for someone who is able to walk? No, he's specifically designing it for folks who have this certain disability, right? Which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? It's just when you say you're designing for everyone, you actually exclude people. Okay. Now, not intentionally, mind you, because again, your goal, your thought process is to include as many people as you can. It's just when you do that, you, by its very nature, you tend to exclude people, right? So that's where I was like, oh boy, when you design for everybody, like in a game, now we're making something very, very, very simple. Well, by doing that, you are excluding the people who are looking for something that is much more ingrained. Who are looking for a deeper strategy experience, who are looking for that hardcore strategy game. You're not making it for those people. You're not. You're actually making it for people who have not played a trading card game before. You're trying to lower the barrier to entry, right? Which again is not a bad thing, right? So again, I think this was just a poorly worded way of saying it. I think I can't remember who said it or what exactly they said, but we were talking about this on stream. And I think it was Jonty basically made the comment of maybe instead of saying this game is for everyone, maybe they should have said something along the lines of this game was designed specifically for new TCG players or something.
People
something
of all
like that.
ages.
Right. Something like that. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's the intent. I do think that was the intent. It's just when I initially heard it, my brain went, oh, yay, universal design. This is not good, So again, it's very minor, and I don't think the way that I took it was actually the way that it was meant to be taken. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely don't think that I wouldn't have taken it that way.
No, I know you wouldn't have. I know.
But it's also kind of going off like what you're talking about. If people are looking for a very high strategy and super in-depth game, this isn't going to be for them. But it's also like, okay, what game is that? Because if it's like they've been playing Magic for 20 years and they're looking for something further than that, there's nothing. There's literally nothing.
Really not much,
it's kind of like the whole thing of some people will get addicted to certain substances in life of, I'm never going to reach that high again.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've just been doing this for so long. It's just easy to me. I need something to go to that next level.
Right.
There's nothing.
Right.
It's most likely not going to be this either.
Right.
But yeah, when I first saw this, I was just like, okay, it's for casual players. It's for competitive players.
Right.
It's for young kids. It's for older people. All right, it's for everyone.
Yeah, they're trying to make a game that's easier for everyone to get into. They're actively trying to lower that barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And this is a concept where we've actively talked about on our podcast. We have an entire episode dedicated to barrier to entry. And we do recognize that the barrier to entry in trading card games is already exceedingly high.
Yeah.
And I do think Lorcana is going to they're actively trying to lower that barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Those barriers will still be there. And like the one that they're going to try their best to lower, but they're not going to be able to, is a financial barrier, right?
Yeah.
They'll do their best. Like they're going to want to print as much as they can, but what are they going to be able to actually do? That's going to be the question, right? But I do think Lorcana is going to be the game that actively lowers that TCG barrier to entry. I really, really, really do. And it's not just because of the IP anymore. Like now that we know how to play.
Well, I think Pokemon does a really good job with that as well. Even if they want to get people in competitively, they have really good starter decks out that where you put two of them together, you can play competitively.
That's true.
Like they release a lot of good products.
That's true. So I do think if you look at that, if you do look at Lorcana and Pokemon, I mean, people are gonna pick Lorcana because of the IP.
Yeah.
Like if the choice is you want to play Pokemon or do you want to play Lorcana? Oh, I'm gonna play.
It's like 50-50, honestly.
Well, but hang on. But the thing is though, oh man, that's actually a good question. Like that would be a really interesting
like if
experiment.
If we're talking younger people, right? Like they're already growing up with Pokemon a lot of the time.
But hang on.
But they're also growing up with Disney.
But you also have to look at their parents.
Yeah.
Like are their parents Disney kids or are their parents like, did you grow up with Digimon and
Pokemon's like also for 30-year-olds who are already having kids, so they also grew up with it.
But here's the thing though. Look at me. Okay, look, I've got kids.
Yeah.
Okay, so my wife's family, they would be Disney. They would, if given the choice, Disney. Okay. Me, like I have my nostalgia. I have nostalgia for both IPs.
Yeah.
I have nostalgia for Pokemon and I have nostalgia for Disney. Okay. So there's going to be people who have that nostalgia for Disney.
Yes.
There's going to be people who only have that nostalgia for Pokemon. Okay. And again, they're passing that to their kids. Okay. So 6 to 1/2 dozen the other, right? It's going to be a toss up.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a toss up.
I just think like we're kind of getting to a point where Pokemon has been here for long enough to where it could be like 50-50 up to the kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. All right, so real quick, I've got a couple of wants and then some predictions, and then we'll move on to card of the week. All right, 3 wants I have written down here. More lore interaction / removal. Right now, we only have 1 card that interacts with lore, which we called. Yeah. Other people did too, but we did. We speculated.
We did it first.
Yeah. We did speculate because it's like there had to be.
It's not a life point total. You can't gain life or make your opponent lose life. It's so you have to have some way to interact with the win con.
I also think if there's going to be costs associated with lore, like alternative costs, like instead of paying the ink cost, maybe you pay it in lore instead.
I could see it.
Yeah, I think that's. I could see it. Yeah. The next one is board wipes and more removal. We need more removal. There's more removal because the one thing that was one of the first things that was talked about was what's stopping me from playing a ton of characters, leaving them untapped, and then tap for 20 lore in 1 turn.
Yeah.
Because again, if there's no interaction, my opponent can't do anything to me on my turn. What's stopping me from doing that?
Yeah, but you could.
There needs to be more inner removal.
I have thought about that as well because I was just like, yeah, it's kind of like unstoppable. But if you never tap your stuff and your opponent is tapping theirs, your 1 creature that's getting you 4 eventually, their 1 creature has gotten them maybe 6, maybe even more.
But if you're faster to get all of your things
stuff
down
out
on the board, right. Like it's a potential, which again, I don't know if that's actually going to be a thing, right?
Yeah.
But that was just one of the things that was immediately talked about first, right? And so how do you? There has to be a board wipe,
especially if you're not taking care of your opponent's stuff. I just can't see it being better for you. Because again, if your opponent is consistently putting in, like say you guys are both dropping creatures, but he's now questing and you're not. Well, if he quested twice versus the exact same card on your board, he has now doubled what you're getting.
Correct.
So I just don't see the speed like at that point. If you can't control your opponent's board, it doesn't matter.
Right, but again, I need to be able to control my opponent's board.
Yes.
That's the thing is there aren't many ways to do that right now. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I'm like, we need more removal.
Yes.
There's got to be ways to control your opponent's stuff.
Yeah.
So because again, if it's literally just who's quicker and I can't do anything about what you have on board, then okay, that's gonna get boring real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, there is removal. Like we have seen removal.
We have just 2 pieces of it?
3 maybe. There's a few.
Dragonfire, 9-drop Maleficent in red.
Cruella is soft removal because that just bounces. Because that just bounces. Let It Go, which
Let It Go puts in.
We'll talk about. Talk about that one.
I won't say what it does.
All right, the next one is sleep / freeze effects.
Yes,
because we were talking about Elsa, right, and trying to do that on your opponent's turn to stop them from using a creature. Well, you can't do that, right? So the only utility Elsa has right now is to tap down your opponent's thing, so you can challenge directly into it.
Yeah,
that's the only reason you do Elsa.
Yeah.
That's literally it.
That's the only reason.
Which that makes Elsa a lot worse. She's still good. I do think she's still good.
Thank you, Dan, for reminding me.
He was so high on that card initially.
Dude, if there was a
you were so
so good.
It was, man. It was. It was. Yeah. So, but that's something where and those types of effects are tap your opponent's thing down. They don't untap until their next. Well, I don't know how you'd phrase it anymore. Until your next turn. It would probably be like until your next turn. I don't know.
But they wouldn't untap on your next turn.
No, it's just that's when the lock would be up.
Oh, okay.
That's when the lock would be up type thing.
Okay.
So the way there is a card in Magic literally called Sleep. It's tap all your opponent's creatures they don't untap during your opponent's next untap step.
What was the thing that put Sleeping Beauty to sleep?
The wheel.
Yeah,
There's
wheel
a wheel.
thingy.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
She pricked her finger on the wheel.
That should be an item that puts things
to
like
sleep.
to tap them.
Yeah. We'll probably see it. I would not be surprised if we saw that in set 1.
I also think it'd be stupidly good because it's instantly better than Elsa.
Yeah, because you can do it the turn. You can do it the turn. But again, it gives
and you
another.
Can't attack it.
Yeah, because we haven't seen item removal yet. Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. I have 3 predictions. One, we already talked about is locations are going to be a thing. Mm-hmm. So that's that's a speculation we're leaving open. We're not saying we were wrong on that. Okay, we're leaving it open to TBD. Mm-hmm. Okay, the design space for inks will be explored and quote improved on. Because right now it's just you put this card into your ink area face down. That's it. I think they're going to do something with that.
I think there will be like resource cards that you can have face up in the back row.
Yeah.
So like we have characters, items, and actions to start with. They said that there can be more. Yeah. So why couldn't they make a form of resource?
Yeah.
So,
but I do think though, if they make specific resource cards, those are going to be cards that are just in every deck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, that's the one thing where I'm like,
is that a bad thing?
I don't know. I don't know if that's a bad thing. So I don't know. I do think that that's something that will be explored on in the future. The one thing that I don't think is going to be explored on in the future, playing on your opponent's turn. I don't think we're going to see that.
You just had to say it.
I know. Well,
yeah, there won't be.
No,
there won't be.
No.
That would have been set at, I'd assume.
I would think so. So, okay. Now,
Yay.
Now,
what's now?
We're talking about the card of the week.
Yay.
We're going to talk about the card of the week. All right. So now we are actually actively talking about a Lorcana card.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Dude, I can't wait for that song. I wonder what that song is going to do.
Make a 4/4 ice golem.
All right. So have you seen this? There's a short. There's a reel. Okay. So in the movie when Anna, starts singing that song and she looks through the keyhole in the door. Okay. So it starts with that, and then she looks in the keyhole, and then it cuts to Will Smith.
I knew it.
There's a scene in Bad Boys where Will Smith has a gun. He points it down the keyhole.
Yeah.
So you hear boom. It's so funny.
Oh my goodness. How are they gonna play my girl like that, huh?
Oh, that's too good. All right. The card of the week this week is from that movie.
Yes, it is.
It is Let It Go. Let It Go is a 5-cost inkable action. I like that. A 5-cost inkable action. It works. So it costs 5. So what that means is a character that cost 5 or more can exert to sing the song for free. Okay. Put chosen character into their player's inkwell face down and exerted. So you can get rid of one of your opponent's things, or you can ramp yourself. So it's versatile. So one of the things that we've talked about quite a lot is the whole versatility thing. Something that, I can do it to my opponent's stuff, or I can do it to my stuff. So Let It Go is, I don't know, would you call that soft removal, or would that technically be hard removal?
That's hard removal.
Yeah. Especially now, because once it's in your inkwell, and we don't have any cards right now that gives us any interaction from cards that are in your inkwell.
Some would say that's even better, because if you're able to get stuff from your graveyard, into your graveyard, you're able to recycle
There's a lot of recursion already that we've seen so far.
So this could be even better. I mean, sure, you're giving them a mana, but it's gone until you're able to do stuff with your mana pool.
Right. So,
also, you know what I just noticed about this?
What?
This Frozen card is in blue,
Yeah.
and there's no other card that they've shown that Elsa is in blue. Or any of the other Frozen cards are in blue.
Yeah, Kristoff is steel.
Yeah.
Elsa Snow Queen, I think was the name. She's in amethyst. Olaf is amethyst.
Yeah. So are we going to see
Huh.
Anna blue? Elsa blue?
I would assume I would assume at some point we would see her. Because we don't have a ton of cards right now. But yeah. So what do you think? What do you think about Let It Go? You like that card?
When I first saw it, I was like, man, I don't really want to give my opponent a mana. But then Dan's like, you can also hit your own cards with it. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah.
I don't ever think about ramping.
Yeah. Because like if you have a character that has like 1 willpower left, and like it's done its job, then you could sing the song for free, right? Sing the song for free, and then get rid of that card's done its job. Now it's resources.
Yeah, I was also thinking about like, oh yeah, you can attack with it, play Let It Go, put it into the. I was like, no, you can't because it's already tapped. Well, you can't utilize the card that's already tapped to tap for this card.
So here's one thing that's really sick that you can do with these cards, right? Because there's a lot of cards that give you that recursion, right? So if you play, there's Lady Tremaine, right? Lady Tremaine, I think, is a 6-drop in Emerald. When you play her, she has the ability to do it again. When you play this character, you may return an action card from your discard to your hand.
Yeah, terrible card.
So, but again, like let's say you ramp. Let's say you turned one of your characters into an ink, right? You ink them, okay, for free, okay, because you tapped another character, okay, to sing the song for free, right? Then you get that card back, and then you put it down in your inkwell. You use it as a resource, like. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of recursion. So one thing that I talked about was like, are we going to see an exile zone? Are we going to see a remove from play zone? I don't know if we will set one, but I would think we would have to see one eventually.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, because there's going to be a lot of this remove. So you'll be able to use that same card multiple. Like that's just. Can you just imagine playing like Let It Go multiple times for free? Just the exact same card, like 2-3 turns in a row.
Yeah, because eventually the extra mana that they get just won't matter if they're just top decking. Yeah, it's just gonna be all right. Well, you're playing the card anyways,
right.
So
right, yeah. So that's Let It Go. I kind of like. I'm looking forward to all the songs in set 1. I just. Now that we have all this stuff, I'm really more interested in this game, and I think this game is going to do really well. Yeah. And honestly, I'm looking forward to making more content for this game, for real. So
yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah. So that is this week's card of the week. Jim, you have any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on the card, or just in general?
My final thought is it's going to be the greatest card.
Speculation number 11 has already come true. It's already come true, ladies and gentlemen. So, all right. Well, this has been, this was fun. I'm glad we just are able to just kind of sit down, talk about these cards.
Talk about it.
And yeah, this is kind of returned to form. This has been a lot of fun. So, but you know what? Before we get out of here, I want to know, what do you guys think? What do you guys think? How do you think Shift's going to work? There's still a lot that we don't really know. We are going to have to see an in-depth rules guide. We're going to have to see something like that. Yeah. Like, there's no question about it. We are going to have to see something like that. And that will be expected. And we're going to see it. So we'll see that at some point. But what do you guys think? Do you think, how do you think Shift's going to work? What are your thoughts? Are you happy, sad, excited, let down? I know there's a lot of people who've already turned off the game because they know it's not for them, and that's okay. And they even say that, it's okay that it's not for me. And that's fine. Like, as long as you know that something's not for you, because again, not every game is made for you. And again, that's another episode that we talk specifically all about stuff like that. So
Now that you bring it up, I think I just might have figured out how shift works.
Okay.
You said shifting doesn't count as playing the card, correct?
I did not say that.
I thought you did.
No. So
Because how it works with coconut, it doesn't count as playing a card.
no. I said I don't know.
Oh, okay.
So here, if you look at let's look at a card where it already has shift on it.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm trying to find one here,
Yeah,
where's
I'm
one
just
that
pulling up
has
Stitch real
just
quick.
find that has shift. Yeah. So Stitch has shift 4. It says
Oh,
you
to
may
play
pay 4 to
this.
play this on top
Oh,
of one of your
okay.
character's name, Stitch.
So it states play, and when reading playing a card, it says that, but you can't do anything with them until your next turn. So since it states play, I would assume that it has summoning sickness.
Yeah. But again, like the argument could very well be made that this card is already that you're playing it on top of has already been on board for 2 turns. You know what I mean? So that's just one where we need confirmation. We don't know how the stuff works, and that's fine. It'll come with time. So, but yeah, what do you guys think? Let us know. Shoot us an email. Leave us a comment down below with your thoughts. Yes. And Jimbo, where can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram at Jim Morgan HNH.
You guys can find me on Twitter _DG Campbell, Instagram Daniel.G.Campbell. Head over to our website hobbies. www.hobbiesandhappiness.com. Find links to all of our stuff there. And again, don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you can be notified whenever we release a new video. And guys, there's going to be a lot of Lorcana stuff. There's going to be a lot of, which we knew was coming, and we've been waiting for it. And we're actively talking about how we're going to set up our content and kind of what content you're going to see. And so we've got a lot of videos that we're kind of going to touch on this week. So again, thanks everybody for being here, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode. See you, everybody.
Take care.